Students, in the previous video lecture, we have learnt about kinetic energy, potential energy. Total energy is equal to sum of kinetic energy and potential energy. Kinetic energy and potential energy can individually change, but overall total energy of the system will be remain same. Kinetic energy is equal to half mv square. This is fixed, it does not change. Like the formula of kinetic energy will be remained same in all the chapters, or even you can write it as p square by 2m. This is also fixed formula. Whether it is any chapter, it can be. It is whether it is in electrostatics or whether it is in mechanics or atoms, nuclei, any chapter, the kinetic energy is only by the virtue of motion of the object. Therefore, the formula of kinetic energy is always fixed. It remains same. It is equal to half mv square or p square by 2m. But potential energy formula is not fixed. It changes depending on type of force doing work. It depends on type of the force doing work. So when we are dealing with potential energy, if electrostatic force is doing work, if electrostatic force does work, then you will be getting electric potential energy. Electric potential energy is 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught q1 q2 divided by r, and this is negative. Similarly, if gravitational force is doing work, then in such cases you will be getting gravitational potential energy. Gravitational potential energy is minus capital G m1 m2 divided by r. So in every chapter it varies. Suppose if spring force does work, if spring force is doing work, then you will be getting elastic potential energy, which is equal to half k x square, where k is equal to spring constant, right? Therefore, depending on the type of force doing work, we will be getting different equations for potential energy, because potential energy is the state function, whereas kinetic energy is by the virtue of motion. Kinetic energy formula will be remained same in all the chapters. In any force can do work, but kinetic energy will be remained same. It is half mv square. But potential energy, depending on the force, it varies. If it is electrostatic potential energy, you will be getting potential energy concerned with electrostatic force, that is 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught q1 q2 by r. Similarly, gravitational potential energy, elastic potential energy, like that, different depending upon the different force doing work, you will be getting different equation for potential energy. Now in this article, we will be deriving work done, like potential energy stored due to spring force. So here a spring which is attached with a mass is doing some work. Corresponding to that work done, how much energy is gained by the spring, we will be learning that today, and we will be finding out equation for elastic potential energy due to work done by the spring force. So as potential energy varies from system to system, Now let us find out elastic potential energy of the spring. Here we have a mass M which is attached to the spring, and this is the actual mean position. Like, this is natural length of the spring. This is natural length of the spring. Natural length of the spring is from here to here. It has mass M. Natural length in the sense we are not applying any force. We are not compressing the spring. We are not elongating the spring. By nature, its length is L. That is what natural length. I am considering this natural length as L. Now you are applying some force on this mass. You are applying some force on this mass outward. Like, you are elongating the spring outward. As you elongate the spring outward, what would, like, applied force is in this direction. Applied force is right side. But what does spring do? Spring will be dragging the mass towards it. That means spring force is applied in opposite direction to that of the applied force. As you try to elongate spring outward, spring force will be acting in opposite direction to maintain its natural length constant. So spring force is denoted with left arrow mark, whereas applied force is denoted with right arrow mark. Both are opposite to each other. That's point number one you need to understand. So in order to elongate the spring, you are applying force in outward direction. When you are applying force in outward direction, spring force will act inward. This is point number one, which you are able to see in this figure 1. Now come to the next case, where from the natural length, if you want to compress the spring, like you are pushing the mass inside, you are compressing the spring. When you are trying to compress the spring, applied force is in this direction. You are compressing the spring, but what does the spring do? Spring does not want it to be compressed. Spring force is applied in opposite direction to that of the applied force. As a result, spring force is opposing the applied force. And when you are applying force inward, spring force is outward. When you are applying force outward, spring force is inward, vice versa. Now somehow applied force magnitude is greater than that of the spring force. Therefore, you have elongated the spring by some distance x. X is the elongation which is been observed. And when you elongate the spring, and if you leave, because spring force is acting upon the object, that body come to its natural position, and from there it does not maintain in the rest position. It will not come to rest at the mean position. It will be compressed because of inertia of motion. So it get compressed, but spring force will act in opposite direction. As a result, spring force pushes the object right side. Again it come back to mean position, and from mean position, due to inertia of motion, it continue to move right side, so it get elongated. But spring force, when it is elongating, will be acting inward. Therefore, again body comes to its own position. So therefore, if you are taking a mass, M, this is in the mean position, and you are elongating it, you are elongating the spring by distance x. As a result, this become extreme position. Spring force will push it inside and it come to mean position. From mean position, when it come to mean position, there will be inertia of motion for this object. As a result of that, this body get moved, continue its motion, and finally it come to this new position, which is extreme position in the opposite direction. So when it is coming to extreme position, spring is getting compressed here. As a result, spring force will push this object right side. Again it comes to mean position, then goes to extreme position, comes back to mean position, and then goes to extreme position. vice versa, this process continue till it comes to rest position in the mean position. Therefore, a mass which is attached to the spring, if it is disturbed by some distance, if it is elongated by some force, and if you leave it, it will be continuously executing simple harmonic motion. Therefore, mass attached to spring and elongated executes simple harmonic motion. So as it is executing simple harmonic motion, definitely remember that as it is executing SHM in the sense like the complete oscillatory motion it will be executing. About oscillations we will discuss in next coming chapter. So this kind of motion is said to be simple harmonic motion, or it can be called as oscillatory motion, that we will discuss later. Now, what is the force acting upon this object? There is some force acting on this object. That force is directly proportional to minus x, is it not? As x is increasing, the magnitude of force is also increasing. If you are bringing the mass by a distance 1 centimeter, force applied is concerned with that 1 centimeter only. More elongation, more will be the spring force. Therefore, as elongation is increased, the magnitude of spring force is also increased. So it is that magnitude of spring force is proportional to elongation. Proportional to elongation of the spring. And this elongation of the spring here in this figure, it is x. So therefore, I am writing it as x. And remember, spring force is opposite to the elongation. If elongation is right side, spring force is left side. If elongation is left side, spring force is right side, vice versa. That's the reason why this negative sign represents direction of F and X are opposite to each other. Okay, so this is equation for spring force. I can remove this proportionality. If I remove proportionality, I should include a constant. That constant I am writing it as Fs is equal to minus as it is k into x, where k is called spring constant. Where k is called spring constant, this is equation for spring force. And the spring constant k is equal to F divided by x, and its unit is Newton per meter. Spring constant has unit Newton per meter. Now let us derive equation for elastic potential energy gained by the spring. Now let me consider this as equation 1, which we have already learned. Fs is equal to minus kx, where F of S is variable force. Why it is variable force? See, if x is equal to 0, Fs is equal to 0. That means if the spring is in its natural length, spring force will be equal to 0. Here in this case, F is equal to 0. Spring force is equal to 0. Because it is in the natural length, there is no elongation. Here when it comes to this position, elongation is x. That is the reason why spring force Fs is equal to minus k into x. If elongation is still increased, Fs value will be still increased. So x is equal to 0, Fs is 0. X is equal to 1, Fs is equal to minus k. X is equal to 2, Fs is equal to minus 2k. So therefore, spring force is the variable force. I want to now calculate work done by spring force. So as spring force does some work, and that work done W is equal to integration F of S into dx. Limits are from 0 to x, because initially x, that means elongation of the spring is 0. So x I am taking it as 0. and elongation is taken as x, therefore upper limit I am taking it as x. Fs is equal to spring force. I'll substitute that here. This is integration 0 to x. Fs is minus kx into dx. Now this work done is equal to minus k is constant. Integration x dx is x square by 2. Limits are from 0 to x. This gives you minus k into minus k divided by 2 into upper limit is x square minus 0. Therefore, work done is equal to minus half k x square. This is equation for work done. And from work energy theorem, which we have learnt in the previous video lecture, from work energy theorem you can write work done is equal to change in potential energy, right? So here work done is equal to change in potential energy, which is half k x square. This is potential energy gained by the spring. Potential energy gained by the spring. Gained by the spring due to elongation x, right? So as elongation increases, more potential energy it gains. If elongation is 0, then there is no potential energy gained in the spring. So if the spring is in its natural length, it does not have any potential energy, it is equal to 0. If you are elongating it by 1 centimeter, concerned to that we will be getting potential energy corresponding to that 1 centimeter. If you are still elongating, potential energy by the spring, it gains more and more if the elongation is more. So this is how you can derive equation for elastic potential energy gained by the spring due to electrostatic force. So we derived equation elastic potential energy E is equal to U is equal to half k x square, where x is equal to elongation and k is equal to spring constant. Unit of spring constant Newton per meter in SI system, dyne per centimeter in CGS system. Likewise, unit of elastic potential energy is joule in SI system, erg in CGS system. And equation for elastic potential energy you need to remember, that is half k x square. Unit is joule. Yeah. See, we have already learned potential energy depends on position. Potential energy is by the virtue of position of the object. Therefore, potential energy is a function which is variable with respect to position. So hence I can write du divided by dx. That means potential energy varies with respect to position x. Potential energy is variable with respect to position. Just like how if you are considering a mass on the ground, initial potential energy is 0. You are lifting this mass to some height h. Now what is final potential energy, which is equal to mg h, where h is the height gained by the object. What is happening to the potential energy here? Potential energy is variable with respect to h. If h is 1 meter, potential energy is mg. If h is 2 meter, potential energy is 2 mg. H is 5 meter, potential energy is 5 mg. Therefore, potential energy is variable with respect to position. So I can write now. We already know W is equal to F dot S, or dW, which is equal to du, can be written as F dot dx. And as we are dealing with potential energy, force and displacement, if they are opposite to each other, you will be getting one negative sign here. Now I can write du by dx is equal to minus f. What is this f here? F is equal to force applied on the body. Now clearly, if F external is equal to 0, that means if the applied force, if the external applied force is equal to 0, then du by dx will be equal to 0. Du by dx will be equal to 0. This F, if this external force is equal to 0, du by dx is equal to 0. Anything differentiation equal to 0, what does it mean? U is equal to constant. That means if there is no external force acting on the object, potential energy of the system will be remained constant. That's what conservation of potential energy. If there is any external force acting on the object, in such cases, potential energy changes. Potential energy is variable, and that variation is with respect to position. We are plotting a graph for position and potential energy here. In the figure, you are able to see potential energy is taken on y-axis, position is taken on x-axis. Now we are considering that potential energy is variable with respect to position. So it is variable. First, potential energy is decreasing to this point, and then from P to Q, potential energy is increasing with respect to position, and from Q to R, potential energy is decreasing with respect to position, and R to S, potential energy is increasing with respect to position. Overall, potential energy is variable with respect to position. That is what we have plotted here. We have different points. This is point P, this is point Q, and this is point S. Okay. Now, if you observe carefully, at Q and at P and at S, if you calculate slope at P, Q and S, du divided by dx is equal to 0. That means slope of the object is equal to 0. So sorry, slope of this graph is equal to 0. That means at Q, you are getting a straight line. Slope will be equal to 0. And at P also, you are getting a straight line. Therefore, slope of this at point P is equal to 0. Similarly, at point R is equal to 0. At S is also equal to 0. So that means slope is y component divided by x component, that is du divided by dx, which is equal to 0. It means that F net is equal to 0. F net is equal to 0 mean that system is in equilibrium. System is in equilibrium. So whenever potential energy versus position graph is given to you, and if you are able to locate a point where slope is becoming 0, and that position is called equilibrium position. So here P is equilibrium position, Q is equilibrium position, R is equilibrium position, S is equilibrium position. So these all are equilibrium positions because F net is equal to 0, slope tending to be 0. But at these equilibrium positions, at point P, potential energy is minimum. You can check it up here. Potential energy here, this is minimum. And at point Q, potential energy is maximum. At point R, potential energy is minimum. At point S, potential energy is maximum. Okay. So slope of the body is 0. So slope of the graph is 0. That means that you are locating equilibrium positions. But at that equilibrium position, potential energy can be minimum or maximum. Potential energy can be minimum or maximum. That can be found out by differentiating this once again. If you differentiate it once again, that is d square u divided by dx square. This can be positive, this can be negative, this can be 0. So that means once again, if you differentiate it, you will be getting it as positive or negative or zero. This decides type of equilibrium. This decides type of the equilibrium. Du by dx decides equilibrium. D square u by dx square decides the type of equilibrium. There are three different types of equilibrium that we will be discussing in the next slide. So we have learned that du by dx is equal to 0 gives you equilibrium position. At equilibrium position, net force acting on the object will be equal to 0. And d square u by dx square can be greater than 0. D square u by dx square can be less than 0. D square u by dx square can be equal to 0. Based on that, we have three different types of equilibrium. So equilibrium can be categorized into three types. First one is stable equilibrium. Next is unstable equilibrium. And next is neutral equilibrium. Three different types of equilibrium we have: stable equilibrium, unstable equilibrium, and neutral equilibrium. Stable equilibrium is that equilibrium where d square u by dx square is greater than 0. This defines stable equilibrium. If d square u by dx square is greater than 0, it represents stable equilibrium. If d square u by dx square is less than 0, it is unstable equilibrium. If d square u by dx square is equal to 0, then it is neutral equilibrium. It is neutral equilibrium. Three different types of equilibrium we have. Now I will be locating this position. See, we have point P, point Q, point R, and point S. This S is a straight line. Okay. Now d square u by dx square is greater than 0 at point P because slope is increasing. D square u by dx square is increasing. That means if you are differentiating this once again, from P to Q it is increasing. So from P to Q, as it is increasing, d square u by dx square will be definitely positive. So here d square u by dx square is greater than 0, which is positive. From Q to R, what is happening? It is decreasing. The graph potential energy is decreasing with respect to position. Position is increasing, but potential energy is decreasing. Therefore, d square u by dx square is less than 0, that is negative. And similarly, at this position, yes, you are getting a straight line. Therefore, d square u by dx square is equal to 0 because this is straight line. There is no change in the potential energy of the system. So d square u by dx square is greater than 0. So point P represents stable equilibrium. P represents stable equilibrium. And point Q represents unstable equilibrium. And S represents neutral equilibrium. So from the minimum position, if potential energy increases, d square u by dx square will be positive. So therefore at point P, d square u by dx square will be positive. Therefore it represents the body is having minimum potential energy, and that is said to be a stable equilibrium at position P. So remember, stable equilibrium mean body possess minimum potential energy. The position where potential energy is minimum is said to be a stable equilibrium. Whereas in case of unstable equilibrium, body possesses maximum potential energy. And whereas in case of neutral equilibrium, body potential energy is equal to zero. Like potential energy is equal to constant. It does not vary. So potential energy, there is no change in the potential energy. Delta P is equal to zero. Such type of position is said to be neutral equilibrium position. So this is about stable and unstable and as well as neutral equilibriums. Depending upon the graph, you can identify which are neutral equilibrium, which is stable and which is unstable equilibrium. Also, you can identify where body possesses minimum potential energy, where body possesses maximum potential energy, vice versa. Just by looking to the graph, you are able to identify all these things. So that's the importance of potential energy curve graph. It is always plotted for potential energy and position.